in the world of pastels, we have basically, there are soft pastels, which is basically a chalky pastel, which is pigment carried by a chalk, basically. I mean, I'm not going to get into the hoity-toity technical mumbo jumbo about it all, but it's a chalky substance with a pigment in it. These are way cheapo that I picked up at Michael's. It's Artist Loft. I think this set was less than $5 for this. And it came with this amazing leaflet with drawing techniques and everything inside. So if you want to just get a really cheap set to play around with, which is what I wanted to do, that's what I did. And then I was going through my craft supplies and I discovered I had this other set that we're going to play around with, because I think this is a little more expensive set. And I assume, like all art supplies, the more money you spend, the higher the pigment and the better the quality. So I thought we could, if we have time, we can play around with this and see if that is true. Now, these do get dirty, and from what I read, you can clean them by taking the stick and putting them in a container of like rice and then just shaking it. Shake, and the rice sort of knocks off all the loose, yucky, other colored chalk, and it comes out clean and beautiful. Wow. And I read that in like 3 different places by actual pastel artists. So that wasn't like some Pinterest wives tale kind of thing. This was like actual artists saying that. So I think that's true. Now, there is also hard pastels, which is the same sort of thing, only not quite so soft. So you can get more crisp lines, and it's not so soft and fluffy. So there's soft pastels, hard pastels, and then there are oil pastels, which this is my son's set, Rylan, that he's been our co-host sometimes. He got this set, it's by Pentel, from school, and it's a different creature altogether. So we're not even going to play with this. This is an oil-based product. Let me show you the difference here. Okay, so the oil pastels, they are, you know, really creamy. They feel sort of like crayon, only way more creamy. Okay? So if you want to do these techniques we're going to play with, don't buy the oil pastels, buy the soft chalk pastels. And I don't even know if I've ever seen hard pastels. I wonder if you'd have to go to like an art store versus a craft store to find the hard pastels. Or maybe I don't even know what I'm looking for and I've probably seen them. And anyway, so that's soft pastels. I'm going to put them totally out of the way so we don't see them. And this is versus, you know, this is the chalk. And you can use the edges and get lines, or you can... See, this is I'm wondering if, because it's a lower end product, that's why we're not getting such a great, there we go. You can use the sides and cover full areas. They make gorgeous paintings out of it. Now this, of course, was just plain copy paper with no tooth on it, so that's probably why it wasn't catching it either. And then they blend and do amazing things, and like I said, they're really messy, which is really fun. And because it's chalk, it comes off really easy, as opposed to the oil pastels, which get everywhere and are really more difficult to clean off. So I keep handy some wet wipes or some like a wet washcloth or something handy to clean your hands off with, so you don't get everything you touch covered in red or whatever color you're working in as you go. So that's just a quick hint. Okay, so then you need stuff to apply and mix and do cool things with it. So I usually grab cheapo brushes that I don't care about. I'll grab makeup applicators and you know, cotton swabs of different varieties, and use your hands and just go for it. So that's really all I have. There are actual tools for using pastels. There are pan pastels that look like makeup. They're in little discs. There's pastels in pencils, so that you can hold them like a colored pencil and draw with them and sharpen them, the whole thing. So, but this is what we're going to play with. And I need a knife. This is a knife. You guys have seen me use this before. Fancy little knife. And I'll need an eraser. And we're going to use some Post-it notes. And the next thing I wanted to show you is how important it is to have a paper that has a little bit of tooth. So I have 2 pieces of white paper here. This is just some standard cardstock that I picked up at Walmart. Just a normal store. And then this is that my favorite card paper that I use, that we talk about a lot here. And we'll just go ahead and have my husband share a link to that, because we still haven't done my video on it. And it's the Springhill Vellum Bristol cover 80-pound letter paper that we pick up by the ream. This is what I've been buying. And of course, like always, I say, make sure you check your printer to see if it can handle such a heavy pounded paper. So my husband's going to share the link to that, and that's at kellypaper.com that we're buying that by the ream right now. And it has just a nice little bit of tooth on it, so it can grab your color pencil, or in this case, your pastel better. So let's see if that's true. So here is the cardstock. I'm going to go on the edge better. There, on the edge it works better. And then here is our nicer paper. It definitely grabs onto it better. That's that tooth. That's why we like our tooth. It grabs onto the product better. Okay, so we proved my point there, and once again covered in pastel. So when we do our backgrounds, I usually, for me, I spend a lot of time on my coloring of the actual coloring page, and then when it comes to the background, I usually like to just have something soft and pretty to sort of highlight and bring the eye to the actual colored page. When I use colored pencil, especially if it's Prismacolor, because it's a wax-based product, it's going to repel the pastels, because pastels are chalky and it just repels off the chalk. You can just sort of dust it right off, and so you can actually put the pastels right up next to it or on top of it, and it'll just sort of fluff right off of it and it won't affect the color. So that's pretty neat. So I usually do the background last. Plus, once you've got all your coloring done, you can kind of pick what background you want based on the color palette you've produced here and the feel you want to give on the background. What I usually do is I use these little cosmetic rounds that I think everybody's pretty familiar with. You could use other things if you wanted to. Tissue, cotton balls, whatever you want to. I think we'll try some yellow. Oh, these fingernails. Okay. And then I have this knife. You can use any kind of knife. I've seen the X-Acto knives used as well. So whatever knife you've got handy. This one is one that my son said, "Here, Mom, use this cool knife." And because this is such a low pigmented, inexpensive pastel, it takes quite a bit of chalk or soft pastel to get some background going. So you'll want to experiment with whatever pastels you have or whatever you buy to see how much you need. Plus, I would think the lighter the color, probably the more pastel you're going to have to put down to get a color that you want. And of course, you can always add more. Pastels are really great for layering up. Oh, you're hearing Rose. She's digging over here on her pillow. And then I usually take my cosmetic round, and I like either fold it up or in half or whatever. That way I can use one side for one color and one side for another color. And then you just sort of start going. And I do sort of a twisting motion. You can play around and try all kinds of different motions here. If you want to try streaks and create a wind feel, or really you can try anything you want. I mean, this is art, right? You get to play. And it kind of loads up into the cotton. Let me hold it still so you can see. It really fills all up into that cotton, and you can just play around now and lay that pastel down. And I love that you get sort of a mottled look. It's really soft and pretty, and it covers the area really fast, way faster than if you were to sit down and try to do it with colored pencil, which would come up with all kinds of streaks, because you would never be able to cover this consistently, especially marker or anything. It would have streaks, but this way you get such a pretty soft, nice coverage. Now see how I've got yellow over here? Don't worry about that because it actually will erase off. Let me show you that. Okay, so when you put this down now, be careful where you put it, because wherever you set it, it's going to go kind of yellow. So I have a little dish here. This is where I sharpen my pencils, so I'm going to set it there. And then I have this eraser that I'm going to use for erasing here. And what I'm actually going to do is cut off an edge here to create a sharp. I shouldn't be doing this over my coloring page. I'll do it down here, really careful. And then that will create a nice sharp edge. And then you can just erase away exactly where you didn't want that yellow, which is really cool. I'll bring it up closer so you can see what I'm talking about with the way it looks. And Steve, since I don't have my preview over here, tell me if it's going into focus, if I've got it close enough, and you can see how pretty the effect is, how it's sort of, some parts are lighter, some parts are darker. It's really pretty. Can you see it okay? He's looking, the delay is a little slow, so I'm just going to hold it here. I just love the soft look of it. Okay, so then that's just like layer one. And then you can add in, you know, if you wanted to, a great way to do it. Let me grab my, so on our color wheel, okay, brace yourself for a little color theory. Now remember, we could go straight across and grab our complementary color that we have learned about, or a great way to do the backgrounds is to stay right next to where you are on the color wheel. So anything directly next to, and I should have learned what that's called. I wonder if it says it on the back. Using colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel is called analogous. Analogous? Yeah. Analogous. Tell me if I'm saying that wrong, everybody. Analogous. So here we have yellow, and anything straight adjacent to it is an analogous color combination. So this is complementary. This would be analogous. And so if we add a little yellow orange and a yellow green now to this yellow, we are using an analogous color combination. So that's what I'm going to do. Add a little yellow orange and maybe even a yellow green and see what that does to this. So my color palette is a little limited, but we're going to go into the orangish yellow here and add that and see what that does. And you can actually, and I'm just going to do little bits, and I don't want to overwhelm my yellow.
Jude asked where you got that neat color wheel.
That color wheel came from Michael's. I think it was only like $2 or $3 and I used my coupon on it. So 40% off of $2 or $3. Deal of the day. And then a yellow green color. And then I also have a blank color wheel you can download. It's a free download on my website. Maybe Steve can go find that blog and put the link. And you can actually build your own color wheel. Just download that and print it and use your own color pencils and build your own color wheel and have it at home to refer to anytime you want. So we're going to do these two added at the same time. Ooh. Maybe a little green up here. Okay. So I'm going to flip my pad over, save my pad. And this time, instead of sort of, you know, spreading it across the whole thing, I kind of want to just go straight down and keep the colors where I laid them. Now this may or may not work, and I'm going to tell you why. One reason is because the low pigment on this product. The second reason is this is a toothy paper, but not a super toothy paper. If you go and check out in your art store the kind of paper they use for pastels, it's way more toothy than this paper. Tooth being the texture. So I only have a certain amount of tooth to push this pigment down into. So I'm not pushing hard or anything, I'm just medium pressure. And of course, if you get areas where you're like, ooh, I really don't like how that looks, you can grab your eraser and erase it. We're just sort of experimenting together. I just wanted to share with you guys my knowledge on this. Okay. So of course, when you start mixing colors, you're going to get, the more colors you mix, just like if you were mixing watercolors, the more muddy or brown your colors are going to get. So just be aware of that. Okay. But I think that turned out really pretty. Ooh, we've got fluff, which is one reason why I brought this big brush, was so I could brush away the fluff without smearing my hand across and getting pastel across my whole hand. Okay, so that's kind of what I have been doing in the past. A quick, easy way to cover your entire background really fast and easy. Now, if you have areas that you haven't colored yet, you can use your Post-it notes. It's just enough of that really low tack glue that you can lay these Post-it notes down and cover areas that you don't want your pastel to get onto. And this trick is, you can use this trick for a lot of things. Post-it notes are great for covering areas and masking out areas that you don't want color to get onto if you're ever using product that's like the soft pastel that's going to get everywhere. So I have several pads of Post-its that I just keep handy for masking out things if I'm ever getting into a messy product. So that's another handy trick to have around our Post-it notes. Once you're done with your background, you need to seal in the pastel because it is going to forever be messy like this, and it will forever lift off. So it's pretty cool actually, because you could leave it and walk away and say, I don't know if I like this, and come back a week later and change it if you hate it, because it is such a soft product. It's not like marker, it's not going to soak down into your paper. So you could actually come back and fix it later if you want to. But if you're done and you want to give it away or hang it up, you have to fix that on, or it will forever be delicate and will get wiped off and make a mess of whatever. If it falls down on your couch is going to turn yellow. So you have to fix it on. So I have two from Krylon here. You can pick these up at Walmart now. Of course, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, your art stores. Every country has their own fixatives too. These are Krylon. You want to buy, well, typically you buy matte. This is only $8, and then you use your coupon, so it's cheaper than that. And I think they're even less expensive at Walmart. So it's really inexpensive. You can use them for color pencils, pastels, chalks. These are great. They also have the kind that aren't spray kind. So if you have feelings about the aerosol cans, you can get non-aerosol as well. My favorite is the Workable Fixative.
You can use hairspray as a fixative?
Yeah, I've read that too, and I've read that there are issues that maybe like 20 years from now it will turn yellow. The hairspray might turn yellow.
It's going to take a long time to prove that one out.
Yeah. So I don't know. When I read that, I went straight and bought the real stuff. That's all I know. Because the only time I use the Workable Fixative is on something that I'm going to be giving away or that I feel really care about. And so I guess if you're just playing around with it, use your hairspray. But if it's something you care about or selling or something, I think it's worth putting your money in on a real artist quality product that's been tested. That's my theory. So, and plus this isn't that much money and it lasts forever. You only, you shake it up, you go outside because it's got all kinds of bad stuff for you and it's flammable. Keep it away from your friends, family, and neighbors and your pets. Go outside and you just spray a light coat and it actually will, because it's a workable fixative, it will actually leave a bit of a tooth on your paper and you can come back and do another layer. So if you lay down some pastel and all of a sudden you're feeling like none of the pastel is gripping anymore, pause, go outside and hit it with a layer of Workable Fixative, wait for it to dry, and away you go again because it's going to lay down a fresh layer of tooth and you're good to go. So that's what I would do. And sometimes I even cheat and just do it inside because I sit in a very well ventilated room. I would just really quick. I think it says 1 or 2 coats. I can't remember. Dries in 10 to 15 minutes. No, not even that. I mean, it's going to dry in like 5 minutes or less. So this is a really cool little product. Lots of applications you can use it for. Thumbs up for me on the Krylon Workable Fixative. That is my basic knowledge on pastels. Now we're going to play. Okay, another way to use these. Oh, wow, this is a huge difference. Okay, yeah, I may need to invest in better pastels. Way softer. Maybe I would call these a hard pastel compared to this. This is a very different experience. Much softer. Much messier. Look at that. I don't mind being messy though, you guys know that. I just don't want to get blue everywhere. Just where I want it. Okay, one of the ideas they said was to lay down a bold line like this. We have done this before with the gel pens, and then pull it away like this to create sort of a cool effect coming away from your art. I like that. And then they layered on another color on top of that. The smaller cotton swabs, the applicators would be great for getting the colors down into the smaller areas. So you could actually just take your cotton swabs and you rub into the pan pastel, and then you would apply it like this into those smaller areas. So let me bring that up so you can see. Really fun. That would be really neat if you wanted to create like a wind effect or something. I have a whole bunch of really neat stencils. And you can use stencils for, let's use this one, for use with pastels. Well, here's my coloring page. That's the most beautiful heart ever. And we want to do a background around the heart. So we could mask off some of the heart if we wanted to. I'll show you how that works, but you can also use your eraser. But I'll show you how the masking with our Post-its can help. So I'll just put part of it masked off. And then this is really fun. I'm going to kind of look and say, you know, where do I want this pattern to show? I want it to kind of peek partially off on the edge and maybe line up a bit up here, kind of like that. How about? I'm going to partially tape it to the table and to my coloring paper here. And then we're just going to sort of follow the same plant. Now you could take your pad and rub it on the stick or your pan pastel and then dab it on, or use a stencil brush and do that same technique, but I'm just going to do just like this and kind of control the flakes and keep them where I want them. I love this part. I think that's why I decided to do it this way. Something about this is very satisfying. Maybe it's using the knife. I don't know. I like the sound. Can you hear it? I wonder if they can hear it. It's kind of a nice sound. And they're pretty too. I've seen people they lay down something sort of sticky too, and then flake it down into the stickiness and just leave the flakes. I've seen that too on the Pinterest stuff. Oh, there's a whole world of really neat stuff in the pastel artist world. Okay, and then we're just going to do it kind of being careful not to get it underneath the stencil, and this will create a texture for our background. You could apply this to gift cards you're doing. Okay, so I could work and add more and make it more consistent if I wanted to, but I'm actually liking sort of the inconsistency because we're going to add another layer here with another stencil. I'm going to save this tape for the next stencil. Uh-oh, grabbed my paper with that. And remember, if we get some on our coloring area, we can always remove that with our eraser. Ooh, look how pretty. And these stencils, of course, clean up really easy. You can even just take them to the sink and clean them up. Now we'll grab another stencil to do a secondary texture on top. Well, some ivy. Okay. And let's go ahead and use green. You know, we could use another sticky note right here to help block this area.
Carla says hi.
Hi, Carla. That'll help a little. And maybe another one right here. Perfect. Okay, block that leaf area out. And let's go again, shall we? Okay, I'm glad I added the dark green because that's really pretty. Are we ready for the reveal around my really fancy heart I drew? So when I saw this idea, they would layer up several stencils. They did like 3 or 4 different stencils, and so you get this really neat, deep layering effect, and I saw them do it with like a forest background, and they used leaf stencils, which I have one in here, right here. So they use these, and they would like lay the leaves out and do a layer of like light yellow leaves and in the pastel, and then they did a layer of a darker leaf and darker, and it got this really neat background of leaves in the background of a coloring page, and then in the foreground it was like a woodland coloring page, and the background was this really cool effect with all these leaves. So you can do some really neat things with the stencils as well. So break out your kids' stencils and see what they've got. Okay, we are going to lift this off and see. Okay, so if you ignore this part and take this off, oh, see how good that paper did to protect that. And then if we erased off all of our bleed over, like that. Ooh, that's cool. When I did that, it kind of did a cool smear there. Gently blow to get the dust away. There, you can see how pretty. And if we kept building it up, you can keep building up more layers, and we could smear it now if we wanted to. If we didn't like how solid it is, we could have done a solid background like a yellow or something first, and then did the red on top and the green ivy, and you could, oh man. And you could also take your gel pens and come in and add details onto the leaves. Now it's becoming its own coloring page in the background. So you could do all kinds of stuff with the pastels. So remember, fixative at the end so that it doesn't get everywhere, or in between layers you can use your fixative, because that will add a little tooth so that when you do your next layer you have a fresh layer of tooth for your pastel to grip onto. So remember, this workable fixative is kind of an important part of this whole process. And like I said, this is available in a lot of places now, so it shouldn't be hard to find some sort of workable fixative wherever you live. Thanks for joining me for this fun pastel experimenting, and I hope that this will help your art and give you something new to inspire you and give you some new art to play with. So I like it. I think pastels are really fun. Really messy, but really fun. We don't mind the mess as long as it stays contained, right? So it was really fun. Thanks, you guys. You're awesome. Bye-bye.